So let's see. Good morning, everyone. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Morning, morning, morning. I think that the audio should be back right now. I was saying, good morning, everyone. It's August 22nd here, and I got cut off yesterday. Some kind of issues I just dropped off. And I do have a new mic. It's not the one I'm using right now. I'm just trying to set it up, right? It's over here. It was causing some issues yesterday. It sounded very scratchy, so I got to really configure what's going on here, and I haven't done that just yet. So the appreciate it. Making sure that you can hear me. So the audio is gonna get better. I know I've seen a lot of complaints. Audio shit, audio shit. Well, I'm trying, but I'm not apparently very tech savvy because I can't get this to get good audio, but it's good. So we'll get to that next week ideally. But we've got some news right this morning about the jobless claims. We talked about the revisions from yesterday. They came very delayed, right? They came out very delayed during the day. They were supposed to come out at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then it took them the longest time to actually release them. Today we have day one of the Jackson Hole Symposium. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm expecting a little more movement in the market starting from today and tomorrow. It's just like volatility is volume on the S&P 500 is like very low still. It's 88,000 currently as we're speaking, about 25 minutes into the open of the market session. So that's a little cumbersome. But yesterday was very, very similar, and then we got these like whipsaws up and down in yesterday's trading session. Some good movement, some good opportunities that we traded and played out. But the volume was still kind of meh. Like it wasn't very great realistically. So we got like failed access to the upside and downside. So with the move into the Jackson Hole to start day one today, I'd expect to see a little more throughout the day and better moves. So we'll see how that kind of shapes up. But step number one, right, talking about these claims, like U.S. continued jobless claims, they came out, or they were expected at 1.87 million. They came out at 1.863 million. And the big news from yesterday that caused like a decent move of volatility here and there was the ongoing chatter about the huge revision in the U.S. job growth that was seen yesterday. And it might signify for what it might signify for the economy and the markets. I'd assume that during the Jackson Hole they might chat about this a little more. But 818,000 jobs wiped out in the 12 months through March 2024, which is 68,000 per month, which results in the biggest drawdown adjustment since the global financial crisis. The data revisions are common, but usually not to this degree, very, very drastic. Even with the large standard deviation typically assigned to non-farm payroll figures. The Bureau of Labor Statistics usually surveys 100 to 150,000 businesses each month, but the department then extrapolates from those surveys to get an estimate of how many jobs were created in the entire economy. Later on, quarterly reestimation process looks at 60 million business records, many of which were not available at the time for initial monthly payroll releases. The records can include unemployment benefits, seasonal hiring for the holidays, and unavoidable lags such as delayed payroll data, which can give a better picture of overall economic activity. Technically, the BLS could publish the data once it has all the reports to avoid revisions. However, many participants need to access the earliest possible read on the labor market developments, like policymakers, lawmakers, as well as business owners and investors. Initial estimates are generally in line with trends, but the accuracy of the BLS data has been called into question more recently with requests to revise the birth-death models of corporations or other influential factors, including undocumented migrants. Despite the major revisions that had largely been expected, right, even from the day before, trends still appear to be positive. Instead of 250,000 payroll additions per month, the figure was around 185 to 200,000 mark on average, which likely would have led to the same monetary policy regime from the Fed over the past year. That might look different going forward given the rising unemployment rate, thereby cementing the Fed's rate cut in September. The dovishness even got markets excited on Wednesday, especially after the FOMC meeting minutes. They barely did anything, right? Which showed such an action was likely, with stocks rising amid the chatter of deeper rate cuts. Barely rose. So not too much on that data front from yesterday. They didn't really create too much movement. Today, like I said, day one of Jackson Hole, which is something that we want to pay attention to. I'm not honestly 100% sure if Jerome Powell was going to be speaking on today's Jackson Hole start date, but tomorrow he's on the wire for sure. In terms of other news, we've got PMI composite flash at 9:45 a.m. Eastern. Existing home sales at 10. EIA natural gas report at 10:30. Kansas City Fed manufacturing index at 11. So decent amount of news that's coming in at the morning session, and then throughout we've got the Jackson Hole. So some of the other news events here, not too much. Some EV. Ford is overhauling its electric vehicle strategy, which included dropping a plan for a new electric SUV and pivoting towards hybrid versions. The Detroit automaker's EV business has continued to bleed money, which prior forecasts that it would lose between 5 and 5.5 billion in 2024. The strategy shift is expected to cost Ford up to $1.9 billion, including a $400 million non-cash charge for write-down of SUV manufacturing assets. It would also delay the successor of the F-150 Lightning, trim capex on pure EVs, and ramp up the U.S. battery production. So that's some of the news. Not too much news. We'll probably see a little more news from today's session into tomorrow, right? So Jay Powell, right? I think Laurent's confirming here that he's going to be speaking tomorrow, but the Jackson Hole does start today, so probably more of information and news that comes out tomorrow rather than today. I'd still expect to see some movement. So we look at these auctions on the S&P. We're still holding bullish momentum, right? Prices are still climbing higher and higher and higher. Right now, as things shape up, we're trying to expand outside of a distribution with the support between 56.45 and 56.48. So I'd like to see that hold for the continuation. But realistically, we could have deeper pullbacks into 56.30, 56.24, and still hold bullish pressure. It's just one of those periods where we're getting like these incremental pushes to the upside, where we can see deeper pullbacks and still remain bullish as we continuously hold these auctions. So that's something to take note of today. Again, right, it's going to be hard for me to be bearish unless we start breaking under 56.10, which is a decent way down. So most likely going to lean on buying dips on the session, and we'll leave you with that. Not too much info today. And we'll open up our live trading room. So I'll see you guys all in there. Let's see what we got today, Thursday. Let's end the week strong. Happy trading, and we will chat in tomorrow morning session. So keep that in mind. Check out community.tradeproacademy.com. Keep in mind that we could see some more kind of excessive swings on today going into the Jackson Hole. Tomorrow more so with Jerome Powell on the wire. And I do still want to remain bullish until we actually start breaking auctions under 56.10ish and lower. So thank you all.